Prynhawn da, Yanto.
No, he's speaking in tongues. Is that why we're celebrating King David? What's going on over there?
Today is St David's Day, the patron saint of Wales. So I'm wearing my Welsh rugby jersey. I have the daffodil, which is the symbol of Wales. It's in Welsh it translates as St Peter's Leek, and if you remember from your Shakespeare, we have the Welsh fighting with King Harry had leeks in their hats. Well, this is sort of the modern version of that symbol. But it's our patron saint. He was educated here in my hometown of Lantwick Major, the oldest Christian college in the UK. So we are very dear to our hearts.
Seriously, but what I mean, many years to all the Davids out there, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, this is their big day.
That's why there are so many Davids in Wales. We have Davids, Dies, all varieties. It's a very popular name. But talking of names, John, I remember. Now it's many months ago, so I'm trying to recall. But I think it was September last year. You mentioned you were working on a post. Something to do with Hallmark man's character names. John,
I mean, you are very kind, I guess, or you're being very cruel. I don't know which one it is. But yeah, someone responded to a post I did on the Hunger Games prequels, and I said next week I'll be writing up a post about the structure of Sunrise on the Reaping. And I showed all the diagrams of the previous things and where I thought this was going to go and everything. And this person wrote me a very kind, thing saying, I'm still waiting for this, but I can't wait to read this. The odds of me doing Sunrise on the Reaping right now are just about, no. But yeah, I said repeatedly in the first month or two after the release of the Hallmarked Man that I had to do a Cryptonins post. I had to do let's break down the allegorical depths of the Hallmarked Man's names. The very first post I did about the Hallmarked Man, written post, was about the flood, the avalanche, whatever, tsunami. What other words can we use here, right? The tree fall. What do we got here? Of names, characters, and subplots inside the Hallmarked Man. It made it a very difficult book for a lot of people to read.
It needs an index. It needs an index, doesn't it?
I mean, my final count on names that were new or relatively new was 139.
Wow.
Okay. And so I suffer from a certain mental illness called all or nothingism, which is if you got to do it all, or you break down and you don't do anything. And that's, I don't know. I don't know if that's cowardice or just an excuse or what that is. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start doing names, the ones I think are most important. And I'll just write until Substack says, nope, whoa, just, we can't mail that out. This is not for the Encyclopedia Britannica by email, buddy. Stop, just stop it. So I started writing yesterday. I said, okay, forget it. I'm writing. It's February 28th. It's been how many months? It's been like 5 months. It's time for me to get to work. And so I started writing. And I didn't even explain, Rainey and Wilson, what Rainey and Wilson is. I referred, I don't know how many times, to Rainey and Wilson, which is, the book that Rowling uses for her names. We know because she had, what was it, a page of her website. She had pictures of the books that she uses. I didn't mention any of that. I just wrote a very quick introduction because I didn't stop. I just started with names and I went back, wrote the introduction, and it was already over. So I got 10 names. And I really regret not doing this earlier because it confirmed a lot of the things we've been talking about. It showed a few things that I thought were delightful. And it highlights what we're after here, what we're about. What Hogwarts Professor does. And forgive me, Nick. I know you live in the lake. I know you've got a little houseboat out there in Rollings Lake, whatever. And some people accuse you of dredging the lake, but I mean this the reason you came into this whole project was because of the shed work.
Oh yeah.
And really, it's the shed work as reflected in the golden threads that really brings us to the lake, as much as Rolling's testimony about it. Because you see the golden threads, you're like, wow, all of these things have correspondences with Rolling's life. The shed, not so much. You can find mythology, and if you work at it, you can get at the literary alchemy, but you don't look at Rolling's life and say, oh yeah, this is a lady that's going to write in chiastic structures. These are things that the work testifies to, and you can largely put those aside. And the names really get at what Rolling is about. There's a forgive me, I'm not my literature stuff is all largely post 19th century in terms of fiction. I'm not a reader of poetry. I don't read poetry. And I think you've read more poetry, Nick, in the last 6 months than I've read in the last 10 years. So I mean, that this is, I mean, T.S. Eliot in The Salvages says, we had the experience, but not the meaning. And that's largely the project at Hogwarts Professor. Is all of us have had the experience of reading Rolling's work, and we're mystified by it. So it's a profound experience. It touches us subliminally. It really gets at us in the unconscious mind, and really at the level of the heart. But we don't consciously understand its meaning. We don't go for that. And so the Hogwarts Professor thing is our audience, the people that we speak to are people that want to know the meaning consciously. They want to really see what this is about and why it has this profound effect on them, that they feel almost they've been transfigured, a little transfiguration spell going on there. And the names are a big part of that artistry. And it gives us a clue or a cue more to the rest of her artistry. I've talked before about how the literary alchemy and the chiastic structure, the mythology and the Christian content, all those things work together towards the same end, which is to engage the heart and to enlighten the heart and illumine the heart the way that an alchemist pursues enlightenment. This light within you, this logos within you, as your imagination is transformed by its contact with the reference of these symbols and such. Now, all those work together, but the names, in my experience, people always just think that they're a joke. Now, they're funny, and we talk about their being funny, but they're funny. First of all, most names just go right over the people's heads. Some of them aren't funny. Like if you read Beatrice Groves's parsing of Owen Quine, which is brilliant. I have to put a link down below on that one. I mean, seriously, you see Owen Quine's name and you just don't think anything of it in The Silkworm. And Beatrice's exegesis of that name, nobody's laughing at the end of that. They're like, oh, wow, okay, that's profundus, right? That is, forget the confundus charm. This is the profundus spell. I mean, that's just so brilliant. And unwrapping that, as Beatrice did, was a real service, because it really illumined the meaning of what Rowling Galbraith was after in that character and in that book. Now, to my knowledge, nobody's done that with Hallmarked Man. And so there's some good jokes in there. But mostly it's, hey, you're missing the point if you don't really get this. You're not seeing where this is going. And what my takeaway from this whole thing, maybe we shouldn't go there until I get to the end of, we're talking about this, but I mean, if you only have 5 minutes of this talk, is that if we needed confirmation that the first 7 books are a set and the next 3 books are going to be a set with the same characters going all through them. Really, the intensity of Rowling's nomenclature, her name fixation and her investment in names really points very strongly to this has just begun. This is not an Owen Quine, he's murdered, he's dead, and we're never going to see anybody again. Maybe Leonora, because there's a lion in her name, but no, there's not going to be that many people from these that previous 7. That is confirmed, I think, in these names.
That's wonderful, John. My theory is, I think Rowling, the work you've done and the work that Beatrice and others have done have demonstrated that Rowling puts an awful lot of effort and meaning into her names. And I think she mainly does that for herself. So that when she's using that name and she's writing that name, she knows all that background, even if the casual reader doesn't. And that spurs her creativity as she's writing that character. But and we maybe don't pick up on that meaning of the name, but we pick up on how she's using that character and how she writes that character. And this further exploration that you're doing, that and now allows us just to peek over her shoulder when she's created that character and chosen that name for that character, to just live a little bit inside Rowling's head so we can get a deeper understanding of what she's trying to create with them. And I think that's a very privileged place for us to be.
That's a fascinating idea, and that's, to my experience, that's the first time I've heard that Rowling invests in this for herself first as a writer to make sure she gets it right. I think that's very similar to a mother in a child.
Yeah.
That I know, and I have some experience in childbirth here, not personally giving birth to children, but being present. I've delivered 5 children with my wife by myself. Actually, she was there. She was there for all of them.
Yeah.
But just the 2 of us and the child. And after the first couple of children, where we kind of worked together, which meant I tried to manipulate her into the names I wanted her to use. After that experiment, I realized that the mother had a resonance with this thing, and the famous Platonic dialogue, Cratylus, he talks about the sounds and such, and this resonance with a child's name, and that the mother, I think, has that sense of what this child's name is, and as she births the child and she calls that child that name, and the Orthodox have like an 8-day period before the child is really named. So this is done properly, but that naming is how that child's going to be known. And this is again, names are considered to be superficial, accidental things by, in fact, the whole nominalism, that perverse theological error from the high scholastic period is about names. That's what nominalism means. Is that any description of a thing is just a name, and it's arbitrary, it's social, it doesn't really have any meaning per se. It's a sign. It's a cipher. It doesn't really mean anything. Theologically, that's a deviation not only from Christianity. You can't say hallowed be thy name and be like, but names don't really mean anything. Names in Christianity, as an esoteric Judaism, if you want, but I mean, all through Judeo-Christian literature, the name of God is sometimes it's taboo, always it's to be hallowed, and it's reflective of when that perennialist's touchstone. To say the name is to be in the presence of the named, is that when you invoke a name, that's how a person is known, and it draws out their essence. Now, really the best single chapter in the literature on names is in Beatrice Groves' Literary Illusion in Harry Potter. It's got its problems, and really, I wish B had gone into something that she writes about in another part of her book. That really is the thrust of all the stuff that we do here, and that is that everything, all of Rowling's artistry is exteriorization. She's going to bring, like the Bogarts. The Bogarts exteriorizes everybody's worst fears, and that's largely what names do. Names are your tag, your face, the little sign that you carry that tells you who you are. And the first thing it tells you, if you do it backwards like the Japanese, is the surname comes first. Here's my gens, here's my family, here's the tribe I belong to, and then my given name is that resonance that makes me individual. Right? That's how, and that's a very good guide to who that person is. That you look at their face, you see their name, you should be able, that should exteriorize a lot of what their essence is. All right. Now, we're all taught not to judge a book by their cover and this and that. And we all laud Dumbledore because he's able to see, that inner person. Well, it helps if you can do that little occlumency thing, but that his, not occlumency, but legilimency, excuse me, that exteriorization of the inside, and the inside being bigger than the outside, two kind of topoi of Rowling's work. That's what she's after, is to get you to penetrate into that depth of the person and see how they're known. And the name is your point of entry to that. Now, I like your idea, I really do, that Rowling does this as a marker to herself. Hey, I'm talking about Owen Quine here, and this is what Owen Quine means. And so you do that. That's brilliant. I love that. It's a writing tool. We do know that she did a lot of writing, for example, with Hermione, where she didn't know her last name, so maybe not in terms of every character, but she certainly doesn't finish that character in the work until those names are down solid. And in Beatrice Grove's chapter, she lists all the things that Rowling has said about names. And she said a lot about names. It's clearly very, very important to her. Now, Hallmark Man, wow, again, maybe the 139 names will cover us for the next 2 books. Maybe we're not going to get that many new characters in the next 2 books. There have to be new mysteries, but we have old mysteries that haven't been solved yet, so maybe they're going to go back and fix those. All right, that would be great. And certainly we have the Robin Strike relationship, which has reached a certain pivot. Now we can't go back. I mean, the last book we thought, oh, good, they're finally going to talk about, this and that. And they didn't really go there until the last chapter of the epilogue, but they can't pivot away from this now. I love you, I love you, I love you, marry me. That's a hard one to say. Whoa, you misunderstood me. So now we're going to pivot into this hard, and all these things are going to come out in these last 2 books. And we see that in these names. So this is part 1. This is part 1. There's going to be more, but
as always, John, you're not being entirely honest with us. You're cheating. So 136, 139 names, and you've just chosen 10. Well, the first one you've chosen has got 5 names, John. So this is Rupert Fleetwood. What's your big takeaway with Rupert?
This is Rupert, Peter, Bernard, Christian, Fleetwood. There's another character.
Brian Wulfrich, was that in there?
Yeah. That's the other character with 5 names is Dumbledore. And I thought 5 was kind of the outer limit, but no, we've got a character with 6 names in this book. It's okay. So around the twist there. But Rupert, Peter, Bernard, Christian, Fleetwood. So he does call to mind, Albus Dumbledore and his 5 names. How do you approach that name? For me, the point of entry was Fleetwood, because we've had a Fleetwood before. It was Patricia Fleetwood. And that name, Patricia Fleetwood, meant upper class woman. Patricia is like patrician, and Fleetwood, at least in America, is the company that made Cadillacs. And so to be Fleetwood, now you told me that Fleetwood is another name, that Fleetwood has a different origin.
Yeah, so Fleetwood, it is a small town in Lancashire, but the Fleet part of the name, it's it can mean just a generic tidal inlet, so a small stream, but it's also quite a famous river in London. Now, it's not the famous river in London, that's the
Okay.
Thames. Everyone knows that, but it's a tributary to the Thames, and it's where Fleet Street gets its name from. Now, Fleet Street is the famous street in London where the journalists, it's their sort of spiritual home. All the big papers were based there. All the tabloid papers were based there. And this river in the towards the beginning of the Victorian era was basically an open sewer. The Thames itself was dreadful, but the tributaries were even worse. So this river was a stinking mess, which is perfectly suitable for the home of journalism in the UK, but not so good for people who don't like catching cholera. So they, yeah, they essentially turned the river into a sewer. It's part of the sewer network now. It is they culverted it, which means they covered it over. It is entirely now underground. So the River Fleet is still there, but it is all a hidden underground river. And I like to think that when Rowling was choosing the name Fleetwood, the Fleet bit, she had the idea of this hidden secret river, the river you know is there, but you can't find it.
I love it. I love it. Again, Nick, things that people in the United States.
The other thing that people in the United States are unlikely to know is the name Rupert is so for in the army, other ranks, enlisted men. Certainly 30 years ago, it was very common to refer to an officer as a Rupert. Can I do this? You need to get that signed off by your Rupert. So it was an archetypal name for a young upper class or middle upper class officer.
Brilliant. That's great. I mean, I should say here what everybody there should realize already at home, which is that no, I don't think it's negotiable that all these names are meaningful, but all attempts to interpret those names are not brilliant.
Yeah.
And are rarely spot on and comprehensive. So please, take this for what it's worth. All names, there's the 3 P's, Nick, of names. There's a place, there's a patronymic, and there's a profession. Okay? And Rupert and Fleetwood, I think, are both markers for a certain class. You confirmed that with the whole Rupert thing. That's great, the young officer. But a Rupert, knowing that the name means Robert, it comes from the same roots as Robert, and instead of being Bob, you're a Rupert. That's okay. I know who you are. You're Rupert. You've got these pretensions. Peter, we know, was the name of his father. That's a patronymic, right? It's also the name of the one of the chief apostles. Christian, again, another marker. Now, you should know that, so Rupert Peter Fleetwood was probably his name at birth. Patronymics usually follow immediately after the given surname. Bernard, I'm guessing, is his baptismal name, right? And then Christian is obviously a generic thing. I think that's probably his confirmation name, which is only in certain bells and smells Anglican communities do they give you another name at confirmation. So having 5 names like that is a sign of your belonging to a certain social class. Old prayer book Anglican communions. So this name, first of all, marks that he's supposedly in a certain class, but that we know that Rupert Fleetwood doesn't honestly belong to that class. He's a waiter, but he's fallen from that. Now looking at that name, you'll see, I think, that Rupert and Fleetwood, the brackets, are class markers. Peter and Christian are names that are most associated with faith. Like that, hey, I'm a good guy. But then you get to Bernard, and Bernard is a great name. Now, people are going all over about, Rupert Bear being some sort of cartoon in the United Kingdom.
Oh yeah. No, it was a comic strip, a paper comic strip that ran from early days of the century through. I think they even still print it in the Daily Express today, so it's hugely long running.
Okay, so when she called him Rupert Bear, she didn't necessarily have to know the meaning of the name Bernard.
No.
Again, and people are talking about Saint Bernard and stuff. Okay, he went to Switzerland. I think that to me is Rowling having fun. But I think the heart of the Bernard thing is what it means in German, is that it means, hardy bear. Baron is the word for bear. And I think that's much more likely why she called him Rupert Bear, maybe the cartoon, but also because his name means bear. Now, so what? Now you can say it's a chiastic structure. You've got basically A, B, C, B, A in that name, those 5 names, with the C there being the bear. And this is kind of a nasty guy, Nick. I don't know about you, but when you make a woman pregnant and you run for the hills, not a good,
no.
not a character marker, right? So it's like, oh, great, didn't want to have to deal with it, so bye-bye. That means you're just a bear. You're like the dogs and the lions inside this book. There's a certain animal quality to men, this deep-voiced man. And remember, he's the son of Dino Longcaster. Rowling really thinks that genetics has an important play in things. And even though he's supposedly the biological son of Peter Fleetwood, we learned at the end of the book that he's not. Who is he the son of? He's the son of Dino Longcaster. Well, you look up Dino Longcaster's name. We know Longcaster is an archery reference, and we get the whole Eros, the false Cupid, carnal desire, sexual passion, Eros. But Dino means, in Italian, it means little bear. And so at his baptism, first of all, who is this? Who is Rupert's mother that she invites her lover to be the godfather to her child? Okay, I think she's just playing her bets, right? It's like, well, I got to give this guy some father credit, but maybe it's her little joke with that. But then she names him, the baptismal name is Bernard, the strong bear, when the father in cuckoldry his name means bear. Woo! So we have 2 patronymics in there, Nick, and the center one, the meaning being in the middle, is that it's Dino Longcaster's kid. Now, Nick, that's a lot of effort for a character we're never going to see again.
Yeah.
I think that to me is a suggestion that no, we're coming back. We're coming back on this one.
Wow. Okay.
And that was the first one, Nick.
That's the first one.
Time, folks. So come back for the 138 adventures of names with John and Nick.
Wait, you said you've got one with one more, so that's got to be Lady Jensen, right?
Oh, you want to skip over? You want to skip down to Lady Jensen? Yeah, I mean, seriously, Tara, Claremont, Campbell, Longcaster, Lagarde, Jensen.
I mean, can you even be Critilic in law?
First of all, it's an even number, doggone it. So you're not going to have if it's going to be A, B, C, C, B, A. But here's the thing: is all those names, other than her birth name, Claremont, all those names are markers of clan and tribe, which is to say it's like mafioso families. Don't cross the lines. Now, again, this is like the BSS Grove Summit. Rowling's what her great grandfather was a medical missionary to Hawaii. I gotta love that. Yeah. Dugald Campbell. I mean, just love it. I mean, think of the demigods. Now, anyway, Campbell, their clan motto is never forget. Now, I mean, B explains that nicely as they spin that so we're aware of our own failings. No, that's not what the Campbells are talking about.
No.
They're talking about if you cross a Campbell, you've crossed us forever until we have our revenge.
So that so there used to be a Highland regiment called the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, and the clan of Chief Campbell is the Duke of Argyll. So it was his regiment basically, and they had a tune they would play before every battle, and the name of that tune was "The Campbells Are Coming." So they would warn you before battle starts. Even in the First World War on the Somme, they would play this to the Germans. We're giving you fair warning. The Campbells are coming.
Seriously, that's such a wonderful, hubris and arrogance, or just to say elan vital. This is, we're coming, brother, and you're not going to like this. That is so wonderful. And that's Tara Claremont Campbell.
Yeah.
And it's Charlotte Campbell too. Is never let a slight go unrewarded. That if you're going to do something to me, you're going to get 10 times on this. I mean, the Marine Corps is famous for that too, no better friend, no greater enemy. A famous Marine Corps general once told the Iraqis, he said, if you'll participate in this peacemaking journey, then we will have your flanks. We will guard you up. And if you decide to cross us, they will speak here of what we do to you for 1,000 years. And that to me is this Claremont Campbell mindset. And why we know that Charlotte Campbell didn't go into the night peaceably. That there's something there, either her family is going to use what happened to her, or they did something to her and they're going to weaponize it. But the Campbell thing is not done.
No.
And so Lagarde is the same way. Lagarde, the name, in French, it just means the garden. Rainey and Wilson, our favorite resource for all things rolling names, says it just means people protection. Some people say it just means, garden or estate. The surname database, I love that, says it's the German, that like the Campbell's clan motto, it's a desire to defend its members from outside attack. This is from the surname database. It derives from the personal name Ludgard, composed of the elements Lud, meaning people or tribe, and Guard, protection of people or perhaps defense. As Lagarde, it was a personal name, etc. Now all those names. Oh, then you get to Jensen. Jensen's my favorite because it just means Johnson. Yeah, it's just John's son. It's the patronymic basically that we had before, but she chooses Jensen instead. Now Jensen is great because it's the Scandinavian equivalent of Johnson, but it has the word Jen in it, Jen. But sorry, if you're in England, you think of gentry and gentility, upper class. Yeah. And that's a reflection of that soft G, gen is from gens, the Latin word for tribe. And, the fiercest tribe, the whole mafia thing comes out of the Italian idea of the gens. And so when she gives her last name, Lady Jensen, it's again, that Campbell, Lagarde fierceness. And all of her money, we find out later, is from Claremont, which just means, basically city on the hill. They're the people that live on the top, the bright shining hill, sort of a Protestant, we're the city on the hill, which means we have the position of power. Don't screw with us. Lady Jensen's name, Tara, and wasn't she great? I mean, she was great value, Nick. Oh, yeah. That confrontation at the Lagarde family estate, what's it called? Hennessy? What's the name of the?
I'm not sure.
Hemberley. Someone's got to tell us what the name of that means, right?
Yeah, tell us in the comments, guys. I can't find it quickly.
All right. That confrontation with Strike is the fight with Charlotte that we never really got.
Yeah.
Strike, when he meets Charlotte in the first 7 books, is just saying, I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with you. Whether it's on the phone, by text, or in person, Strike never, he was always just biting his tongue, grinding his teeth. I don't want to have any inner relationships with you, Charlotte. It's over. Goodbye. But with Tara, Charlotte's in the ground. And so all of his barriers to really telling Tara what he thinks, they're off. And so Strike jackhammers her. I love it. I mean, the end of that conversation where he says, where Roland Galbraith puts in his mouth, do you mind if I take a slash before I leave? I mean, in the United States, it's going to have a piss. I mean, it's just it's so vulgar. And it's like, you're dirt on my shoe, and she's like, no, I do mind. You can't do that. And he's like, I know where it is. Don't get up. It's just so brilliant. That confrontation with Charlotte, we never really got to see. We get to see it with Tara, who is, of course, Essence. She's congealed Charlotte. She's the point of origin for Charlotte. She's mad. She's crazy. And she may be Johnny Ropey's lover. Oh, wouldn't that be exciting? So yeah, do you have any doubt that we've seen the end of Lady, Claremont, Campbell, Lancaster, Lagarde, Jensen? I didn't have memory, Nick.
No, I don't think so. So Jensen was also a very beautiful and very expensive and very stylish sports car produced in the UK in the 1960s. Every film star wanted to be photographed with one. There were huge waiting lists. It was also notoriously unreliable and didn't last very long. So I'm wondering if maybe Rowling had that in the back of her mind when she chose that.
That's beautiful. Forgive me. That's the equation that Americans have with the Jaguar.
Yeah.
Which has been a much more successful British brand of automobile. But in the United States, the engines are famous for needing to have their timing adjusted constantly.
Yeah.
So if you haven't got a professional driver that's maintaining your car, you don't want to have a Jag. Yeah. Anyway, that's funny that the Jensen has that. Thank you, Nick. That's another great marker.
Yeah, it needs to go to the garage at least every week, but it'll get there really quickly.
If it's not being towed. Yeah. That's great. So again, that marker, much like Rupert, Tara's name says, we haven't seen the last of this woman.
Yeah.
Because Rupert has Bernard in the middle of it, which ties him to Dino, right? And Dino, he's all wrapped up in Tara as well, because the Lancaster thing, we know about this relationship. Wow, this is so you can see why I was excited about this. This is a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun.
But we can't forget, today is St. David's Day, and our many Welsh subscribers will want to know a little bit more about some of the Welsh names that are featured in the Hallmarked Man. So what about Tyler Powell?
Okay, yeah, we've talked about some of the bad guys, but Tyler Powell, it really is a Welsh name, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to Powell, because that's the most specifically Welsh name. It's a commonplace in West England, I'm told. Obviously, where I'm reading this stuff, where Roland grew up. I did not grow up in West England. It means son of Howell, from the Welsh Powell. I mean, go ahead, Nick, pronounce that.
Ap Howell.
Okay. Howell means eminent, prominent, literally well seen. Howell, though, derives specifically from a Welsh king and has a tint of royalty in it, whence Powell, as the son of the king, refers to a prince of the realm. Now, I've gone, some people don't get into the Christian symbolism of these books, and all I can do is feel bad for them. Like, I got raked by one, commenter that was saying, oh yeah, John was all in on the fish being a Christian symbol. And I was like, they were given names of the characters and they revived and rose from the dead, and you don't see anything in that, dear. It's just like at a moment of great transformation in the character for whom it's named, you didn't see any correspondence there. Okay, another silly overreach by John Granger, okay. But here we've got, Tyler Powell, who I think is the Christ person of the book. He sacrificially loves Jolanda Lindvall in a way that's this woman has been raped, has been serially abused. She's been impregnated by this guy who's her false father. And yet Tyler Powell says, I love you for who you are. And I know your essence. He gives her that charm bracelet that shows he knows what her name means, which has a specific meaning about purity. We can talk about that later. Okay, Tyler Powell is this man of vision, and he sacrifices everything for a woman who's pregnant with another man's child because of his unconditional love for her. And then what happens to him? He's the hallmarked man. What is his hallmark? A 3-barred cross carved into his back, and all of his individual characteristics have been ripped from him to identify with that cross. That's what the demonic satanic figure does to him, because carving a cross into a man's body is a crucifixion. You're fixing a cross into him. You're making him into a cross. So Tyler Powell, why is Powell that way? Because he's the son of the king, which is transferable to a son of God. He's that figure. So Powell is powerfully named, and it's a powerfully Welsh name.
And Howell was the only Welsh leader who was known as the Good. Howell Dda. He was Howell the Good. Not the most powerful of all the Welsh leaders. We'll maybe come on to a more powerful one later, but he's the only one that had that postnomen of the Good. So very well regarded, and quite an early one. So sort of the late 800s was when he died.
Now that's great, because Tyler could be called the Good as well.
Yeah.
But Tyler, the first name, is, in case you doubt the spiritual resonance of Powell, Tyler takes you there. And Rolling's having a lot of fun with this, because Tyler means bricklayer or mason. So he's in a book about Freemasonry. There he is. The man who lies tiles or brick. It's right there. He's the true Mason that Pike and others talk about. He's the good man who sees the best in other people. He sees through the suffering Chloe's surface, and she's a rough girl. You see that exchange that Faber Whitehead talks about her, that this is a rough girl, and Tyler sees through that and claims this woman inside there. My favorite thing, though, is that the name is, in Freemasonry, the Tyler is actually a position in Freemasonry. It's the person who's this one site I found says it's sometimes it's considered a doorkeeper of an inn or owner of a tavern, derived from its use in Freemasonry as the name of the office of the outer guard. Now I had to look up what that meant, and the duty of an outer guard of a Masonic lodge. Masonic lodges may meet in rooms in taverns or other public meeting places, and all lodges appoint a Tyler to guard the door from the outside against ineligible Masons or malicious or curious people, to check the eligibility of latecomers, and to ensure that candidates for ceremonies in the lodge are properly prepared. I think the reason that he was all dressed up in this regalia was because, and for Rolling's sense of humor, was that he was a Mason responsible to making sure people were fit for this. And he becomes this bridge. They talk about the specific order that the rite he's being prepared for is about a bridge ceremony. Because, again, the Christ figure, I've talked to you about that fish symbol, Nick.
Yeah.
That the connection of heaven and earth is the fish who is Christ. right? He's dressed up. The Christ is the bridge between heaven and earth, the God-man whose two natures join these two spheres and make eternal life possible for those in the earthly sphere. He's the bridge from one to the other. And that Tyler Powell is dressed in that ceremonial robes for that ceremony, the bridge. If you don't see the Christ symbolism in that, Nick, I'm just going to be doing that. Wow. And the choice of Tyler Powell, there's no way that Rowling, with all of her research into Freemasonry, didn't know what Tyler meant. And she also says she has Strike and company searching to find him in bars. Well, that's because other duties for the Tyler, I'm reading this, involve preparing the room for meetings, supplying regalia and equipment, serving as bar steward. The Tyler was a guy who worked in the bar. So this is too rich. So this character who's not, we don't see much of Tyler really.
No.
We see his dead body, his remnant, but we don't learn his story really until the very end. Really until parts 9, 10, and the epilogue. We don't really get Tyler Powell, and what a revelation it is because of all the horrible things that have been said about him before that. Anyway, so yeah, Tyler Powell. So I hope that satisfies your Welsh friends, Nick, that we did the.
It does. I think more than satisfies. Well, okay, so we've done Welsh. How about Belgian?
So you want me to talk about Jolanda Lindvall?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, she's got 2 names, right?
Yeah.
We got Chloe Griffiths. Do you want to do Griffiths first? You want to do Ian Griffiths first? The bad guy. We've done the good guy.
Yeah. My countrymen will be cheering if we go straight on for a Griffith.
Well, yeah, Chloe Griffiths. I want to go with Ian Griffiths first because it's personal, Nick. When I first ride through, I was all for Ian Griffiths because you've heard me bang on about the Peter John rule in Rowling's work. Rowling said famously that all these mystery writers have a tell. One of the writers that she really admires had long-fingered people.
That's it. Yeah.
They were you knew that was the killer right there, man. Just got a good grip on someone's neck, I guess. And she said, once you saw the long-fingered character, you knew it. And if there was any kind of poisoning in the background, Agatha Christie, that was it. You knew this was going to be the person who had access to the poison chest. That's the killer. Well, Rowling's tell has always been Peter and John. Now, in John Bristow, but that wasn't really his given name. He was adopted, right? So we don't even know what his real name was. John is Jack Jones, the hero of Christmas Pig. His name means John. That's so. Good guys are named John, and bad guys are named Peter. But there's Peter Gillespie, Peter Pettigrew. Peters are bad because for all of her daddy issues, right? Rupert Peter Fleetwood, he gets kind of a bit of a bye because Peter was the dad, and the dad we find out was a bad guy. So okay, but Ian is just the Gaelic form for John. And so I saw Ian Griffiths and thought, oh, he's a good guy. And I also made another key mistake, Nick, was Griffiths, I assume, was from Griffin. I thought, oh, King of Heaven and Earth. There it is, the Lion and the Eagle. What could be a better name? And the guy's short, and he limps like Hephaestus. This is everything great that Rowling has. This is the hero of the book. Oh, well, Nick, as you know, Griffiths is a good. Ian is not really a Welsh name, right? Ian is Scottish Gaelic. What's the Welsh?
So there's several. So the most direct translation from Ian to Welsh would be Iowan, but there's also Ewan is another variant, and for a nickname or to show some affection, you might term someone Yanto. So in our introduction, I referred to you as Yanto because I'm very fond of you. Um, but Ian is, I think, now so common in English usage. It's also common in Wales, and I think the assumption is it's just an English name. It wouldn't be recognised as Welsh. I don't think it would be recognised as Gaelic either, even though that's where it came from.
Okay, that's good. But Griffiths, sorry, that's heavy. That's strong, right?
Oh yeah. So I mentioned that Howell was probably the Welsh prince who was most well thought of. Howell the Good, not the most powerful. Well, Griffith was the most power, is the only Welsh leader, recorded Welsh leader, who could probably be called a king of all Wales. So he was the son of Llywelyn. So his full name was Griffith ap Llywelyn. He died in 1060, so he's fortunate not to be involved of the Norman conquest of Glamorgan, which started to dismember his kingdom. But the term Griffith means strong lord or fierce chief. So gruff is strong or forceful or fierce or powerful, and Eve is a lord or a chief. So he's literally the strong leader.
Now you could see Griffin in there if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You could make that into if you wanted to, but obviously not what Rowling was looking for. Unless, Nick, and this is where it got uncomfortable for me, that this was a misdirection piece for me. That I was going to bite into that and say, oh, this is a great guy. His name is John. I've said everybody named John is a good guy. And Griffin, he's got a Christian name. This is good. And then I realized that we got John, and his last name starts with a GR, and he's short. 64 inches, Nick.
John, just because she named Hermione after you personally, there's, she's not going to keep on doing it. You've had your acknowledgement. I think that's it.
I mean, for those of you who are not aware of this inside joke, Rowling gave Hermione a middle name, and the middle name, Nick, was
Jean,
or Jean, which in French is
John.
So yeah. Hermione, who spends the last book trying to figure out the symbolic meaning of a children's book, is named Hermione John Granger. Okay, so that's the joke. Yeah, Gilderoy points there all around, right? But this is reverse Gilderoy points, because now it's like, wow, she's decided to name this despicable sex trafficking rapist after the short guy. But I don't have a limp, Nick. I don't have a limp. All right, now. Anyway, that was my discomfort. I'm so glad that you think that's a stretch. On we go.
Okay.
To Chloe
Griffiths. Yeah.
We've already talked about Griffiths. It's really a signifier of royalty, specifically of princes, but not of griffins, right? Chloe is a color, believe it or not. I saw a person commune this morning on the Sunday of Orthodoxy. Her name was Chloe, because that's a reference in St. Paul to a woman with a house church in Corinth who writes. The reason we have the letters to the Corinthians is because someone in Chloe's house writes and says, hey, we got real problems. But Chloe in classical times, it's a color. It means young green shoot. Like, think of scallions, things that come out of the ground overnight. This giant green shoot. And specifically in places like the desert, that it means blooming constantly or fertility. That's got a mythological core to it, Nick, as shouldn't surprise us at all, and one that links to Cupid and Psyche, because Chloe is an epithet which is given to Demeter or Ceres. Demeter is the mother of Persephone. those of you that have maybe you're tired of hearing Nick and John talk about Cupid and Psyche, but Persephone is, or the charm bracelet. Persephone is the end game of that whole Cupid and Psyche thing. Maybe not the end game, but pretty doggone close to the end game. And Persephone is the daughter of Demeter, who is the goddess of agriculture and fertility and husbandry. That woman is the reason that everything grows from the ground. Well, Persephone is captured by Hades and dragged off to hell. Hades pulls this little trick with the pomegranate seeds and gets her to eat some stuff down there. And so when she goes back, oh, sorry, if you eat something while in captivity, you have to come back. And Zeus decides, because she only ate 6 pomegranate seeds, that she only has to be in Hades 6 months of the year. And that's why we have fall and winter, because Ceres, the mother of Persephone, is grieving while her daughter is in hell with her husband, Hades. And in the spring, when she comes back, we get those green shoots, hence Chloe. So we have that connection with Demeter here. Chloe, Rowling is just throwing out a Ceres reference, that this is really kind of the mother of the story, which is to come, is Hallmarked Man. And we're going to see the progeny of this story played out in the next 2 books. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it, Nick.
Wow, I think I'm with you, John. I think I'm with you.
All right. This is the original myth has the abduction and return of Persephone. Rowling Galbraith highlights that connection in Hallmarked Man by making the mysteriously absent Chloe the principal victim of Ian Griffin's, that the Christ-like Tyler Powell, who goes into hell and harrows it, tries to save. So she's doing the Rowling thing of blending mythology and Christianity together brilliantly, obviously. But the Ceres Persephone story makes Ian the Hades figure, especially as he separated Jolanda Chloe from her mother Rheta by abduction and murder, and kept the young girl underground, literally in the basement, metaphorically in her hidden status and pseudonym, and ultimately in her grave. She's buried in concrete under the house. So we really get that. When Psyche follows her sister's direction and confronts Cupid arrows with a lamp and a knife, she inadvertently wounds him with lamp oil and he flees. She pursues him, but can't find him. On that hunt for her love, she asks Demeter Ceres for help. She's part of the task. And so there's Robin, basically Demeter balks at helping Psyche, because that would cause Aphrodite to be upset. And so she kind of balks. Juno does the same thing, kind of says, no, you got to go find Venus and work this out with her. But on this score, Chloe Demeter is pursued by Robin Psyche in Hallmarked Man during her mad search for mental stability that she can only have via this anti-erotic relationship with Strike. But Chloe Demeter has been killed by the false Cupid sex trafficker, right? Ian Griffiths, who assumes Ceres' voice and gives Robin Psyche false messages that distract her from her search. Now, you can say that's too much of a reach, but then you get to Jolanda. If you don't think Rowling's into names, she's now made Robin, at the end of part 9 in the book, her epiphany about that solves the entire case comes from her interpretation of Jolanda's name, where she understands finally, oh, Jolanda, the violet bracelet. If from Tyre catalyzes the reactions ending in everyone's death in the book. Tyler gives her the violet bracelet, and that causes things. So Jolanda's name. This is straight from the meaning of flowers website. Okay, Jolanda is a feminine name of Hungarian and Slavic origin, derived from the Greek name Jolantha, meaning violet flower or purple flower. Its etymology traces back to Greek, eo and anthos, flower. The name gained popularity in various European countries, particularly Italy, Spain, and the Netherlands, often associated with beauty and nature. It is a cognate, It's most popular in the following countries: Netherlands, Italy, Switzerland, South Africa, Belgium. All right, you know all that because it's in the book. Yeah. But did you know that violets have a mythological backdrop? Okay, one that's relevant on several levels to the Strike series. There's a connection first with Artemis. Hey, Nick, who was talking about the Artemis thing? It's the drinking game time. Woo! It's Artemis time, right? That's right. Artemis is the divine defender of women and children associated with Robin Ellicott, hence her infertility. If you go to petalrepublic.com, Nick, violet flowers have...
I'm rarely off that website, John, as you know.
I know. It's on your marked page. I know that this comes out. It's your default page. Violet flowers have deep roots in Greek mythology. And we know that Rowling knows that because of the lilies and the narcissa. I mean, there's been whole monographs written about flowers in Harry Potter. I mean, Rowling's into flower symbolism. They have deep roots in Greek mythology. As the story goes, violets were the creation of Artemis, who transformed one of his virginal nymphs into a delicate flower to protect her from the approaches of her twin brother Apollo. This is why violet flowers become a symbol of modesty and restraint. All right. So Artemis, protector of women and children, changes this woman into a violet. And the Christ figure, because let me go into the Christian symbolism. Okay, same site. In Christian writings, the violet flower is often seen as a symbolic emblem of humility because of its 3 leaves. You get Trinity, It is said the violets symbolize the Virgin Mary's humility and purity. These blossomed when the angel Gabriel told Mary that Jesus would be her baby. In the world of religious art, the violet flower is often portrayed as a symbol of modesty and humility. In the article, I write up all, what violets in general, what blue violet and white violet mean. Go and read that. But what we're seeing here is that the Christ figure looks at Chloe Griffiths, okay, who's a very rough young woman who has been used and abused, and sees the violet within her and gives her this token, this physical token of, this is your true nature. And I see it. Basically, I see this virginal, humble, modest woman inside this sex-trafficked, raped woman. And I draw this out of you. And she does everything she can to protect Tyler. That fight that she has with Hugo Whitehead and Anne-Marie is because she's trying to fight to shut them up to protect Tyler. Because if Ian Griffiths finds out that he knows this story, then the man from Hades is going to murder her true love, who is, the Christ figure. That whole thing about him having to be murdered underground in the vault and Hallmarked, the necessity of it is because of the symbolic representation and the mythological background of Hades and the devil basically against Christ. Eros and Anteros. His relationship with Jolanda is entirely anterotic. Right? He's not even with her. He didn't father the child. We don't even know if they've had relations at all. And Ian Griffiths, on the other hand, is this satanic figure that has captured her and put her underground and murdered the mother series. I mean, it's fairly convincing, Nick. Forgive me. Really, that Griffith murders Hugo and Anne-Marie because they tease Chloe Jolanda about the bracelet, and he kills his daughter and Tyler as well. I think he does this not only because he rightly feared his exposure if her real name and prisoner status were revealed, but also because as something of a satanic Eros figure, he despises the purity and modesty of Powell's Christ-like sacrificial love for Jolanda. Hence his bestial butchery and underground in a vault. Then you get to that's just Jolanda. Then you get to Lindvall, okay, which means veil of the linden tree. Mythologically, the linden tree, I knew this because my wife's given name at birth was Lindsay. The linden tree is the sacred tree of Aphrodite, symbolizing love and tenderness, which is to say, not passionate desire and carnal abuse. Right? It's anti-erotic love. It's about friendship and fidelity. So, yeah, the hidden name there, Jolanda Lindvall. And the fact, how about, when do we learn about Rita Lindvall and Jolanda Lindvall, Nick?
Is it part 3?
I don't know what part it's in.
No.
I don't know why people are so obsessed with parts, Nick. Why are people so consumed by parts? All I know is that
John, are you concerned we have a deadline for our next part recording coming up?
Part 9. I've already done it, Nick. I've already done it. I've already charted it. I'm ahead of you, brother. Okay, but the crazy arbitrary reveal of Rita and Jolanda Lindvall comes to a drunk Robin Ellicott outside a bar on Christmas.
Yeah.
Christmas Day. She's inspired. Really, she goes out there to look and see if Strike sent her a text. You know, she realizes that's a betrayal of her boyfriend, you know, later. But at the moment, she's just in it. She spends more time with Strike than anybody else, and she's outside. Of course, she gets, you know, the flubberworm instead. She gets Matt Cunliffe, who's reaped his reward, right? I mean, he's got this.
Yeah. I mean, he's smoking. He's overweight. He's tired.
Yeah. And his ex is dating Paul Newman, right? I mean, this is tough. All right. So she's out there having won the gambit. And what does she get? In this crazy internet search she does on her phone, she gets Rita Lindvall and Jolanda Lindvall.
Yeah.
Christmas Day, Nick. Gosh, what would Christmas Day be? Sorry. I mean, seriously, that the whole Christian mythological subtext is buried in the names. I'm sorry, those names aren't really Welsh, other than Griffiths. The name, the Griffiths, that's kind of an ugly thing that the Welsh are involved with that, Nick. I'm sorry if your friends are going to. They're the Hades figure. They're Satan. They're the devil in this thing. They're the great deceiver. Instead, we get this mythological reference, you know, the sacred tree of Aphrodite, and it's not passionate love. It's the sensitive type of love. Again, if you weren't on board with the mythological Psyche and Cupid thing and Eros, Anteros as the backdrop we get from Spencer and C.S. Lewis, wow, you're missing a big piece of this book and what's going to happen in the next 2 books. And yeah, the Christian symbolism, Nick, I'm leaning on it. What other names? I mean, there's all sorts of other names in here.
Okay. So we all know Sacha Lagarde is a bad egg. We met him. Strike's met him.
Very smooth.
He's
very
not
smooth.
He's not a nice guy. However, you've been talking about that way back in Lethal White. So how did you get there?
Yeah, how he appears in Lethal White. He's only mentioned as a reference, but the first clue we get from him is in the exchange with Max Priestwood, whose name is a great one, right?
Yeah.
His name means big cross. I mean, that's just great. You know, not only a big cross, the biggest cross.
Yeah.
This is the whatever this guy says. That's the point. That's it. You know, and he doesn't call Sacha Lagarde Sasha. He calls him Simon Lagarde. I mean, the passage in Troubled Blood, he says, yeah, I was in a play years ago with her half-brother, Simon Lagarde. He starred in that miniseries about the financial crash. What was it called? She came to watch our play and took us out to dinner for afterwards. I liked her, actually. She was a real laugh. Some of those posh girls are a lot funnier than you'd think. So Simon Lagarde is mentioned as a throwaway. But, Nick, I'm sorry, the Peter John thing, it's right there. Simon is synonymous was Peter. And I put all the links down below. I mean, the links are in the original article about the Simon John thing. When Max Priestwood calls him Simon, that means this is a bad, bad egg. You know, the story of that is in Rolling Father Echoes, something I wrote around Troubled Blood, and Jack Jones, Peter and John. This is really Rowling's defining family romance reflected in artistry, is that Peter is a bad guy. And so Sacha Lagarde, and then he makes this comment when Charlotte supposedly commits suicide, he quotes Romeo and Juliet, and he quotes something which is not what he thinks it means, or it is what he thinks it means, and he's cueing us to think, oh, there's something more to this story. And you, again, I'll put the links down below for that. I talked about that in you wrote who killed Charlotte Campbell, basically, and that, you know, because she was killed, she didn't commit suicide. Yeah. And I wrote a follow-up called The Charlotte Campbell Murder Mystery, and my number one candidate was Sacha Lagarde. Now, that's before we met him.
Yeah.
But his name and what he said were both huge markers that he could not be trusted, that he knew something or he did something to do with Charlotte's murder. Now, so the first thing is his name isn't Sacha. You know, it's probably Alexander Simon Lagarde. And he goes by Simon sometimes, and his family calls him Sacha, which is the diminutive, affectionate thing for Alexander. Alexander as a first name, Nick, it means, in Greek, it means the help for men. That's why Alexander the Great was considered to be a Messiah figure, right? I mean, it's sort of a savior. And so Sacha offers himself as this heroic figure. I mean, that play he was in where he plays this long-suffering character in the Holocaust, and yet he has everybody else do his stunts because I'm not doing anything like that. And he can't be bothered.
Yeah. They won't let me. Yeah. They won't let me do the stunts. Yeah.
Yeah. And he can't be bothered to tell Strike that he knows that he has the Neff in his house.
Yeah.
There's no way he doesn't know that's there.
No.
Maybe he doesn't know that his mother is displaying it. Only Tara would display a stolen object like that. I mean, come on. That's good. She wants Dino to find out that she has it, so there can be an explosion and a fight about it. But Sacha knows all the backdrop, and he just lies like crazy to protect his family because, Nick, he's a Lagarde. Do I need to go back and review Lagarde for you? And that's that clannish thing, you know. And so his mother is not a Lagarde anymore. She's a Jensen, but she's living on the Lagarde family estate because they protect their own. The Gens is strong there. I you know, go ahead. When Sacha Lagarde doesn't wind up being the murderer, you can say, "Oh, John, you missed that one." I miss these things all the time. I miss these things all the time. And we've already seen with the Ian Griffiths thing that Rowling is onto the Peter John stuff. But maybe because Simon was referred to as Simon only once in Troubled Blood before I wrote up any of the Peter John stuff, maybe that was a tell that she doesn't want to repeat. That he's that bad a guy. We'll see.
Okay. Colors. So we've had Rubeus, we've had Sirius Black, we've had Albus Dumbledore, of course.
We had Chloe. Chloe is green.
We have Chloe, but we've got a couple of references to all the colors. So Newton and Gandalf the Wizard will tell you white is all the colors, all at once. And we've got two whites. So we've got Faber Whitehead and Albie Simpson White, which is White Simpson White. Are we in alchemical territory here?
You know, that's a great question. And I'm really balking at the whole. For example, I'm satisfied that the first 7 books are a ring.
Yeah.
And I know people are doing double rings and triple rings and rings inside other rings and stuff. I mean, it's great. Knock yourself out. The first 7 books were a ring, and in correspondence with the first 7 books of Harry Potter, these 7 books of Harry Potter. And how the alchemy works, they worked fairly well in that thing, but I'm really waiting on all 10 books before I start doing the alchemical analysis. This is quite the marker, though. We have the Whitehead family.
Yeah.
which just means gray-haired or white-haired, whitehead. I thought it was like an acne thing. Isn't it a pustule? They call those
It is.
whiteheads.
We call them whiteheads. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it's like okay. I was like, wow, it's kind of a gross thing, but I don't think that was Faber's issue or Hugo's thing. Anyway, Albie Simpson White. Frankly, he's a bad guy, Nick. He's got white all over his name. You know, Albus is white or glorious in Latin. And white, Nick, you know, that means white. So we got that white bracketing, which only highlights Simpson, which, Nick, again, patronymic, son of Simp. Now, who is Simp? Simp is, you know, in anglicized thing, is the form of Simon. You can't have, you know, Simon's son. You have Simp's son. You get that sound there. All right. Son of Simon. Once again, Nick, Simon is synonymous with Peter, which is Rowling's reflex name for a bad guy. The man in white, surprise, who could have put Decima's mind at ease, sort of, by explaining to her why Rupert Peter turns out to be a black hat. You know, why Rupert Peter fled. That man, Albie Simpson White, turns out to be a blackguard. You know that he is protecting his friend while this woman with child spins. Now, maybe it's because Tish Benton got a great job out of it, and so did Rupert, Peter, Bernard, Christian, Fleetwood. But to roll all those back, but he's a bad guy. Yeah, I mean, there's that Simon name, Nick. I'm sorry, it's right in there. It's wrapped up in white, but you know, he's a blackhead. You just squeeze it and off it comes. It's an ugly thing. And then we get Hugo Whitehead. Hugo, you know, is really something that makes me think, yeah, maybe, or Faber Whitehead. Hugo Whitehead makes me think it's alchemical because Hugo, Ron and Hermione's son is named Hugo. And Hugo, I think, is a play with Hermione's name is Hermione Granger. Her initials are, of course, the chemical symbol for Mercury, and it plays on her name being the feminine of Hermes. Hugo is also probably the most alchemical French writer. All of his novels have heavy alchemical symbolism in them. So that was like, okay, Hugo is a natural name. She puts that in there, so Hermione's kid can't be called a Granger. So we're gonna put her initials right there in his name. That was kind of cute, you know. Here we get Hugo Whitehead. And that made me think, okay, maybe this is alchemical. We'll have to really come back to this. That we get that hermetic marker on Whitehead. Okay, maybe that. But Faber Whitehead, his name is more interesting there because Faber. Well, first of all, he's a great character. A beluga whale with glasses. I'm sorry, Nick. You know, I think I've always wanted to meet Rowling, but not really. Because don't you know that her mind is going to spin and kick something out and say, you know, a dwarf without girth, you know, what is she going to say when she meets me? You know, it's going to be like, you know, you're going to get some sort of epithet like, you know, beluga whale with glasses. Ouch. Anyway, he's a successful architect, and appropriately enough, his given name Faber means artisan or craftsman. I think like Tyler Powell, that's a pointer again to masonry. I didn't write this up so much. I mean, there's some interesting things about Faber. It's a medical test, and Rowling is married to a doctor. And the Faber test is one of these tests that you really don't want, Nick, because this is a test where they twist your knees and your hips, and if it hurts like hell, it's a positive test. It's sort of like the dunking witches type thing, you know. Yeah. If she floats, she's a witch, and you have to kill her. If she drowns, she wasn't a witch. You know, I mean, that's here. This Faber test is if they break your hips and knees and you scream and your eyes cross and the earwax flows, That's it. We know exactly what you have. And I wonder if that wasn't kind of what happens in her interview with his interview with Robin. If he's been totally bamboozled. He thinks Ian Griffiths is a great guy and that Chloe is the murderer. He's just totally misread everything. But I think his name probably, I didn't go into this in the article, I think his name really has more of a Masonic reference, much like Tyler, that Faber is a maker. And again, the Christian image there is of the bridge. And I'm going to be posting about the perennialist conversation about the symbolism of the bridge, which is pervasive inside this book, especially with Neil Semple, but also just the Iron Bridge murders.
Yeah.
Iron is considered to be a pretty base metal. And so the Iron Bridge is like a false metal, is sex trafficking and abuse of women. That's not the bridge of anti-erotic love, let's say in a marriage. It's the opposite. It's an iron bridge. So the bridge symbolism is really important. And that they have a character as an architect. His name means artisan or craftsman, as a maker, I think is another reference to a builder of buildings or structures to include bridges. That he's a whitehead here can be alchemical. Gosh, Nick, that's not a stretch for me.
No.
But I think it's more a thing that he's an older man. He's the only whitehead that we meet. Everybody else is off stage. Yeah. He's kind of afraid of women. I've talked about this in the part discussion, but that he's an old man. He's a construction thing. He's totally misread what this means. That may be the Faber test. I'm wide open on Faber Whitehead, but I think that name Faber really is important.
Wow, this has been very enlightening and a little bit scary, considering we've barely done 10% of the names.
10%, Nick. Maybe 7 or 8%. 139, 140 names. 140 names. Do 10 into 140. What do you get? Nick?
Yeah,
You're the engineer. That ain't 10%.
Yeah, but you've done the five name person. You've done the 6 name person. I'm saying this is slightly more than. So, what's coming next?
Well, we've got Oliver Manfoot in the dock, and we've got Daniel DeLeon. I'm working with Ed Shardlow on Daniel DeLeon. I've already written to him to say, Ed, give me a list of all the lions, because I can't possibly list all the lions inside this book. We haven't got the Strike Finder has not been updated. So, and I don't do digital books. So, Nick, I want you to do a search on lion and Leo and send me all the lions or Leos inside this thing. It's not going to show Johnny Ropey, but we know from the first book that he's a Leonard, so we know that's up there. Daniel DeLeon, Nick, I'm going to have to really dig into this, but forgive me. Daniel in the Lion's Den? I mean, seriously, do we have to really dig? He's digging all the time on Sark. That's what he does. Is he's in the ground digging things. I'm just like, wow, is he digging a hole in the ground where the lions might be? So we're gonna start with that, and then I'm gonna go to Oliver Brandfoot, and I'll just keep going down the list until Substack says you better send this because it's too long. So that's coming up. We also have. Nick and I are working on a class online. You're going to love it. It's taking a lot of work. Just like I promised the names, Nick, the class is going to happen. And I think I haven't even told you this, Nick, but I think the bonus of the class is going to be a tour that you make of Rowling's digs as an adolescent.
I think that would be really fun to do, and I hope it'll be fun to participate in as well. I think,
that'll be fun. Come on.
Well,
you're going to find a way, Nick, to get inside the house and show us the trap door, and you're going to get into Dean Comprehensive and show the lockers that she was thrown up against. This is going to be great.
Let's see. Well, I'm working on Merope. I think I might be able to
the poem. That sounds pretty gross, Nick. You're working on Merope.
I think I might be able to link the Harry Potter Merope to Voltaire, to Voltaire's play, to Matthew Arnold's poem, to the Hallmarked Man.
Wow.
Maybe not this week, but I think there's some of the links are a little bit tenuous, but I think there's links there.
All right. And those of you that are on the edge thinking about being paid subscribers, we're going to be charting part 9 next week. And that's going to be a wow. That's going to be a wow.
Yeah.
You want to be part of that. And if you want, you can write to me and I'll send you the form, and you can do that at home. We can play along at home how this works.
This is a group activity.
That's right.
Do please join in.
Anyway,
Okay.
Until then, Nick, salute. Happy King David's Day. Sunday of Orthodoxy to all of you.
St. David's Day. Have a happy St. David's Day, and I'll looking forward to seeing you all next time.
Salute.